Hey everybody, we're now going to compare how seasons work in different parts of the world. And we're going to look at temperate regions compared to tropical regions. So first of all, temperate regions these are areas that we're most familiar with in Melbourne because Melbourne's temperate. So temperate regions tend to look like this if you go to the ecosystem. There's lots of grasses, there's shrubs, lots of trees in woodlands, but sometimes there's open grassland with not many trees as well. But in tropical regions, this is more like rainforest and jungle type ecosystems. So lots and lots of plants, dense forests with really tall trees, lots of trees in the upper level, lots of trees in the lower level too, and plenty of different animal species as well that live in tropical regions. So in terms of Australia, temperate regions are mostly found in southern Australia. So in Victoria, across South Australia, the bottom half of Western Australia, so around where Perth is, and Tasmania as well, and the lower half of New South Wales. So southern New South Wales. These are all the temperate regions in Australia. Tropical areas in Australia are up north. So in North Queensland, and across the top end in the northern parts of the Northern Territory. So the Darwin area as well. Okay, well, we know what these areas look like, but the question is, how do the movement of the planets cause these different climates? So we've already learnt about the 4 seasons and how they happen because of the tilt of the Earth. And it's temperate regions that follow the typical seasons. So everything we've learnt so far about the tilt of the Earth causing seasons only applies in temperate regions. So they follow the 4-season model, or we can say that they have the standard 4 seasons that we're used to having anyway. Alright. So quickly going over that, remember temperate regions have different seasons because at one point in the year, because the Earth's tilted, that region will get a lot more sunlight compared to the other time of year, which is winter, when that region is facing away from the sun and it will get a whole lot less sunlight. And so that's going to be winter in that region. This is the summer in the northern hemisphere, winter in the northern hemisphere, and at that time Australia is in winter, well, the southern part of Australia anyway, and then in the other time of the year the southern part of Australia is in summer. So we've learnt that already, but let's have a look at regions near the equator. So remember, the equator runs across the diameter of the Earth and it runs all the way around it. So if we look at these regions here near the equator, these are actually called the tropics. And this is where tropical regions are found. And the reason they're tropical is because they're always quite close to the sun. So they're, for most of the year, getting full sunlight. So you can see here, when it's the northern hemisphere's summer, the tropics are still getting quite a bit of sun, just as much as the northern hemisphere is. And then when it's the southern hemisphere's summer, if we look at the tropics here, they're still getting just as much sun as we are in Melbourne. So really, in the tropics, they're getting a lot of sunlight all through the year. So it tries to receive nearly full sunlight throughout the year. And so for that reason, these tropical areas, they have a really warm climate. They're normally humid for most of the year or all the year because heat from the sun evaporates the oceans and means there's a lot of water in the air. And because it's really humid, that means there's a lot of rainfall. So the rainfall's high. All these typical weather patterns that we're used to if you've ever visited a tropical area, like northern Queensland. And so these three things are all perfect conditions for growing plants. So if plants can grow there, that means we're going to get really dense rainforests. There'll be lots of food, so lots of animals can live there. And that's why we get rainforests in tropical areas. So if we look at a map of the world, all the world's rainforests, so there's the Amazon in South America, there's the Congo in Africa, then there's Southeast Asia, New Guinea and Indonesia, and northern Queensland. They're all in the tropical regions. So if we draw the equator, it basically runs along here, and the tropics are about there. So all the world's rainforests appear in the tropics. And if we think about Australia, we can look at the different zones of who has temperate climates. So the light blue aqua colour here is temperate climates. So Perth, Adelaide, New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania, we're all temperate. And tropical climates are up the top here. In the top of Northern Territory, Queensland and the tip of WA. Then there are some in-between climates or intermediate climates, which are subtropical and Mediterranean as well. So they're halfway between tropical and temperate. So lastly, where temperate regions have 4 normal seasons, because it's hot and wet most of the year in tropical regions, they either have a wet season all the year round. So they really either have just one season, which is the wettest of the tropical rainforests, and then some other tropical areas actually have just 2 seasons. And this includes Queensland. They'll have a wet season where it rains for about 4 or 5 months, almost every day. And then they'll have a dry season, which lasts for about 8 months of the year, where it's still humid, still warm, but it doesn't rain as much. Okay, so that's temperate and tropical regions.